My topic for the day is, are we learning from accidents? And my answer is no. And I'll tell you why. And it's a very, very simple thing, actually. We cannot learn from accidents if we cannot relate with people. And if we cannot relate with people, it's very deep-rooted, actually. I will take you through some of these slides, but it's a very deep-rooted problem that we have difficulty relating with people, so we never learn from accidents. And not just from accidents, you can talk about learning from work, learning in classroom, learning anywhere. Unless you are able to relate with people, it's very, very difficult to learn. So on that note, I would like to propose that the reason why we are not learning is that we do not have human-centric approaches in our models, in our methods, in our language. There is something inherently missing in our discourse today, in our language today. And I will tell you why, but before that, I just want to share with you a little experience from 1997 when I was 20 years old, and I was a cadet on a ship. And this is at the back deck of a ship. You can see there's the captain, and then there's the chief officer. This is looking at the ship from behind. There is an able seaman. He is mopping the deck. And this is what the captain said. And I was just standing in the background listening to the two of them. And this is how the chief officer responded. Yeah. Some find it funny, some will laugh, some will be embarrassed, some will be shocked. But there has to be an emotional reaction to this. And the reason for that is this: we have turned a human being into an object. And the moment we realize that, we are shocked at ourselves. Isn't that interesting? And what happens when you turn a human being into an object? You can't learn from them. There is no way you can learn from them. And that's precisely where our models, our methods, our language is pushing us. So, it is going to be a difficult one, but I will try to be as kind as I can in my language. There are two ways to relate with the world. You relate with the world, you see other people as it, or you see them as thou, which is the whole person. Most of the times, we see other people as it. We see them as objects to be measured. We see them as hazards to be controlled. You look at the language that we speak when we go to do investigations. I'm going to collect information. I'm going to collect data. I'm going to extract data as I'm going to milk a cow. You have to really think about it. So we lose any opportunity to connect with people, to relate with people. And my humble suggestion to you is today is let's just move a little bit. Let's just keep a balance between seeing other people as it. Sometimes we have to, because we have to get things done. But sometimes it's okay to look at them as you, as a full person, and relate with them, and to be able to learn from them. There is immense power in that. And this is not a critique of any particular organization or institution. This is a fundamental problem with science as we practice it today. Look at this. This is a university in Australia. And they call it Safety Science Innovation Lab. So we teach people safety science in a lab. And look at the picture. Cog in the wheel. Right? Isn't that fascinating? It's an image. You can't even argue with me if you wanted to. Isn't that? So we proudly call it human factors in safety systems. And if this is not enough, I will show you more. Look at this. Let's take human factors books at the top. This is just some random search on Amazon. This is not cherry picking, right? So what do we have? We have a person looking at a computer. We have more people looking at computers. We have magnified screens. We have stethoscopes. We have lenses. We have microscopes. And then we have tiny people, right? We have objects. We have a runway. We have a hand that is pushing a throttle. And then we come to safety, and we have a fist. We have puzzles. We have a brain. We have safety cones, and we have a Jenga. Wow. That's fascinating, isn't it? Do you see where science is pushing us towards? It's not deliberate. It's not anyone's fault. This morning I was having a coffee and I was being reminded that there's a dashboard on the coffee. It reminds you how much more time you have. Come on, let me enjoy my coffee. Yeah? So, it is so obvious that we don't see it. You have to meditate on this. Oh yes, yeah? So, what happens when it goes wrong? When it doesn't serve the system. When the cog does not serve the system or the wheel. This is, in the background, the Costa Concordia, the ship that sank and ran aground in Italy many years ago, 2012, off the coast of Giglio Islands, and it capsized. 32 people died. The captain was in the prison for 17 years, and it is just one example of when it goes wrong, when it does not serve the system. So what do? We do some very interesting things. When it doesn't serve the system, we ridicule the person. We undermine his professional competence, but that's not enough. We destroy his character. This is much more than just a behavioral analysis. We destroy the character of the person. And you know what? When we destroy somebody's character, it doesn't matter what actions and decisions they made on the day. It doesn't matter because we have destroyed the character. When it does not serve the system. And it's all in our methods, models, and books. And we call it science. Fascinating. Are you upset with me? It's okay. So, I have been researching this accident and many accidents in the maritime world. That's my world, oil and gas world. And I collect many stories of accidents. And I find it fascinating that almost all the time it becomes a pity, it becomes a joke, it is a source of shame, and it needs to be fixed. These are the 4 monkeys of Baruch Spinoza, the philosopher. Precisely Spinoza's point. Not to lament, not to mock, not to blame, but to understand. But we do everything around except understanding. So that is what happens to it. So what did I do? I went to Captain Francesco Schettino to meet him as Captain Francesco Schettino 5 years after the accident. I wanted to learn from him as a person, not as an object. I didn't go there to extract information. I was with him for 4 days and I listened to him. I just wanted to listen to him. And he spoke for 12 hours without me asking too many questions on the video. And I produced a book out of it. We'll come to that. But what is my point? My point is that amazing things happen when we meet people where they are. Amazing things happen when we leave aside the idea that people are objects and we want to engage with them. The first thing that shocked me was this. In 5 years, you are the first person with the professional background who came to meet me at my level. I do many talks, and I even find young people who have never been to sea have huge difficulties seeing a distinction between a crime and an accident. We really and literally believe that people involved in accidents are criminals, and we shouldn't talk to them, and they should be kept at the bay. We don't talk to them. We don't. We are so prejudiced and biased. So yeah, it was a shock to me as much as it was to him to see that, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's try and get to know you a little bit. So this is Francesco. He is in the background. He is born to a family of seafarers. His grandfather was a fisherman and his father was a marine engineer. His brother also works as a first officer in oil and gas. What am I trying to say? He's not an idiot. He's just one of us, victim of a situation. Yeah? Worked on tankers. Most seafarers will stick to one kind of ships for their life. This man has worked on tankers, ferries, gas turbines. He has worked on passenger ships. He has built ships in France. He was at one time appointed as the safety officer of the fleet just before the accident. He was actually a representative. He must be doing some right things, right? There could be a possibility that we could learn something from him. Right? A point I will return to, but he kept saying this one thing, that junior officers today don't have enough experience in their position. And I urge you this one thing, that if you're going to do an accident investigation or an audit or an inspection, when people repeatedly use certain words or phrases, or they complain about something repeatedly, listen to them. They have something important to tell you. And this was a big thing in the accident investigation. I'll come to that. He's an intelligent man. He's asking questions. He's asking questions about the adequacy of regulations whilst he was under prison sentence for 5 years at home. He's asking the question that why is it that we have such good fire regulations on ships, but the moment the ship starts to take in water, all regulations, all systems, all technologies fall apart. Nothing has changed since 1912, from the days of the Titanic. He's listening. He's thinking. Right? He has some important things to tell us. He built a kayak which weighs a mere 10 kilos and 5.2 meters long, and he earned a prototype for it whilst he was waiting for his prison sentence at home. So he has something to contribute to the accident investigation. Right? He has a dog, and this is a very, very interesting story. The moment he was under house arrest and his life was made miserable, he thought of getting the ugliest dog in Italy. And the reason for that was, when the dog walks with him on the road, the dog takes the attention away from him, so he can avoid the public shame. Isn't that fascinating? So, these were his parting words to me when I left his town. He said, they have destroyed me. By that he means his company, his family, his daughter, and his wife. So it's not enough. It's not just you. Your whole family is destroyed because you have had an accident. Somebody spoke about trauma this morning, very much. Yes, this is him. Just after the accident, tackling an emergency all night. In the morning, straight to the interrogation, and when he complained about headache, he was given 2 paracetamol and 15 minutes to take a shower before interrogation, which became the basis for accident investigations. So we interrogate and investigate traumatized people, and we call it accident investigation. And we think we are learning lessons out of it. This is how we treat it. That's my world. I don't know about yours. Happens more often than I think or you think. So lots to talk about, but these are some little things that I felt I was moved actually when I did this investigation. And of course, there were some very interesting insights which I can only share with you concisely. But my point is, as people are talking to you when you do investigations, audits, inspections, listen to the whole person. Don't just focus on the object. Don't just focus on how much more data you can collect now because you only have 30 minutes. Have a conversation. You might learn something. That process of just having the conversation with the person is a process of learning. We think of corrective actions as learning. No. That process of engaging with people in itself is a moment of learning for you. So take the time to listen to people, see how much you can relate with them or not. And as a result of that, I found some very interesting insights, one of them being a ship heading into the rocks. There are 5 people on the bridge of the ship, and nobody tells this to the captain. Nobody speaks to the captain. And you know why? Because we have a problem in our industry. Traditionally, the maritime industry has always been hierarchical, always. But we have a new form of hierarchy now, where we have an expert, a silo on the bridge of the ship, surrounded by novices, people who have very, very little experience. It's always been like that, hierarchical, but this is a new pattern of hierarchy that we are noticing. Lots and lots of people around the captain, but don't know what he's doing. So can't speak up. What do you speak when you don't know what to say? Isn't it? Yeah? And no different from the Ethiopian Airlines accident, where you had a co-pilot with 200 hours of experience sitting next to a pilot. Competent on the paper. Absolutely competent. Yeah? Tell me, how would a 3 days course in psychological safety help you here? Or a non-technical skills? Who are we fooling? I also learned how experts on a daily basis walk the difficult line between satisfying different competing and conflicting needs of the organization. But it takes a couple of hours of an accident to turn an expert into a criminal. Very little time. That's my story also, by the way, going back many years. That's why I left seafaring or shipping. I was treated like a criminal after the accident. So I can see that, yes. I also found it that emergency procedures or procedures in general are written in a very logical, systematic, analytical way. And then you're comparing them against the behavior of people in an accident who are so pressurized, so traumatized, they do not know what they do. Not only you compare it with the written procedures, you actually use it as a basis to criminalize them. Isn't that fascinating? 21st century. We have enough information to show that people who are traumatized cannot think rationally, and we are comparing it against rational documentation. Because we want to prove the point. Right? I want to now shift your attention towards this 2 minutes call that between the Coast Guard and the captain. Have a listen to this, and I will then explain some. Yeah. "17 years in the prison, 10 years for corporate manslaughter, 5 years for bringing the ship close to the island, and 1 year or 2 years for evacuating before all the passengers had left. And here's what he has to say.
Soon after that, De Falco was, I don't know if De Falco or who, I don't know, was offering that stupid phone call to the press worldwide. The company changed strategy. Soon after, when I finished the interrogation with the judge, in that very moment, they started to divulgate that phone call. And they started to change direction, because that phone call gave the ability to everybody to not go in deep exactly in this accident, because the scapegoat was in that moment found, the public opinion was satisfied, everybody was happy, and they have created a character that I believe that in reality does not exist. And they were having, I believe, all the captain worldwide, because you become captain after you spend all your life at sea. And I would like also for the category that the world knows that the captain, they don't escape, they don't go away from your ship. That's something that maybe this story has to be told properly, but not for me, because it's been ridiculized as a category.
He never actually left the ship. It was a myth that we bought into. The true story is that the ship, when it tilted to one side, 90 degrees, and he was on the side, he actually jumped on top of a lifeboat, because the lifeboat was still stuck, the davit was attached to the ship. And it was his presence of mind that he asked the guy to open the hatch and go easy on the throttle, because the lifeboat was being pushed towards the ship. And his presence of mind saved, I don't know exactly, but about 300 people who were trapped in this boat, who would have all been killed. It was his presence of mind because of which they were saved. A letter that he wrote to me from the prison, supported by all the research. You can read this book. You can read mine, but you can read this. This is Professor Maurizio Catino from Italy. It's a fascinating book. And it gives a very detailed account of under what conditions and how he left the ship. But we have been sold to this idea that this was Captain Coward who left the ship and he ditched the passengers. In his words, it's a 60p tabloid news which sells so well. The trouble is we learn nothing when we do that. We learn nothing about the fantasy documentation that we create, that we call emergency procedures, and the design of the equipment that we create. If we have the time someday, I will take you through how lifeboats actually worked or not in that moment. But this was an accident investigation where categorically and formally in the investigation report, one person, the captain of the ship, was the main cause of the accident, very explicitly written there. Right? Here's one from his brother. One would think, what's his fault? My point is that once you turn people into objects, you can do whatever you like. You can't learn from them. Right? So I just wanted to this is a very side note, which probably, I don't know if it makes any sense, but since the issue of trauma was brought up this morning, this kind of an approach does not help anyone, including the investigator. In the UK, we have research that shows that 1 in 5 police people who do investigations are traumatized, they are suffering from PTSDs. We have a problem. Without humanistic methods, we have a problem, because they are under constant time pressure to produce reports. And not only they traumatize the person, but they also feel very, very stressed. It's not a pleasant thing for anyone, but we still do it, right? We don't know how to engage with people. Our methods and models don't make space for that. Our language doesn't allow space for that. We had a very interesting exercise yesterday, and we could see how much of our language is so not helpful for learning. So what is my point? My little appeal to you is that I have worked with some very bright young engineers in my life. And I think maybe it is so nice to introduce them to non-STEM kind of thinking. There is a world outside of STEM that I realized only after 11 years of being at sea, because I was totally a STEM person. For 11 years, all I was taught was naval architecture and shipping and engineering. But it was only after I stepped out of it that I saw there's a complete world out there. And I think maybe we should give young people an opportunity to read other disciplines. And tomorrow when we go on a semiotic walk, whosoever is coming, you will see how important it is to see this safety and human factors as a belief from the outside. In a church, in a cathedral. Yeah. So my point is bringing humanistic ethics into human factors and safety management. And I say that in the capacity of a seafarer, a ship inspector, a safety management system specialist, but also I have had a flavor of anthropology and social psychology. So I'm talking from experience and research both. And I leave you with those thoughts. Thank you.